Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Desert Waters Correctional Outreach Staff Strong webinar series. We're happy to have you here today. My name is Stephanie Rawlings. I'm the Deputy Director of Desert Waters, and our monthly Staff Strong series has been going strong now for a couple of weeks, and today we are happy to bring you our newest presentation in the series, Towards Correctional Fulfillment for New Staff. Our monthly Staff Strong series hopes to present some of the products that we develop to agencies who are furthering and advancing staff wellness. And one way that we support agencies is through educational materials that are corrections specific, relevant, and also evidence informed. And we also are designing and making available educational materials for other public safety organizations. So if you have an interest in any of our materials in non-corrections forum, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact us. Last month, we featured our proprietary Corrections Fatigue to Fulfillment course, also called CF2F, which is designed to help with the needs and realities of seasoned staff. Today's presentation features Towards Correctional Fulfillment for new staff. And what we're focusing on here is kind of the onboarding experience for new staff coming into the corrections environment. Next month, if you join us, we will be focusing on our two courses called Correctional Family Wellness. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Chris Stanley, our Director of Training, and Master Instructor and COO of Desert Waters, Justin Stevens.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'll bring up a brief outline for what we'll cover today. But first, I'd like to take a moment and just say good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. And as we gather, it's impossible to ignore the weight of the date, September 11th. It's a day that changed our country forever. We remember the lives lost, the courage of those who responded, and the ways in which we came together in sorrow, in strength, and in resolve. Today, we're also grappling with the tragic news of Charlie Kirk's death. Charlie was, may have been a polarizing figure for some, controversial for others, yet deeply influential. Regardless of where one stood in their view of him, his passing is a moment for reflection on the state of our public discourse, on political violence, and on the fragility of our own shared spaces for debate and ideas. So before we move on to our main agenda, please take a moment privately to pay respects to the memory of those lost on 9/11 and the legacy of unity and sacrifice that followed. To Charlie Kirk, to his family, his community, and all of us impacted by his life, whether as admirers, critics, or observers. In remembering both, may we recommit ourselves to constructive dialogue, to peaceable solutions, and to honoring human dignity, even in disagreement. Thank you. And so today we're going to go over a little bit about what Desert Waters Correctional Outreach is, what the purpose of Towards Correctional Fulfillment, what the course is about, a little bit about Towards Correctional Fulfillment, curriculum contents, the onboarding through the wellness lens. So moving into the content for today, about Desert Waters, we're a 50c3 nonprofit. We have 22 plus years experience in corrections and public safety work. Our focus is on public safety staff, families, and agencies. Our focus has been on corrections staff, and that's where corrections fatigue came from over 22 years ago. But we have moved into the public safety world because we have the same stressors, we have the same trauma experiences. And so with that, we found that whether you work in corrections or on the street, whether you work as a police officer or a firefighter, the demands of the job, the stressors of the job really impact us the same way. We have wellness training. We have numerous courses going from new staff to, administrative staff, peer support teams, and everywhere in between. And that's really what we've been highlighting through this Staff Strong series. And so Towards Corrections Fulfillment is really looking at the new staff, and that's what we'll look at in a minute. Desert Waters also conducts research on, the demands of the job and how it affects us. We have the Safe Haven Wellness Program, which is really Desert Waters coming alongside the agency and building a wellness program that is beneficial to the staff and really promotes staff wellness. The Safety Net Accreditation is an accreditation program looking at your wellness program as a whole and looking at 18 different aspects as far as how you're conducting the wellness program, the training that comes with it, and with the end goal of being accredited as a wellness program. We have educational materials online. We have books that you could buy in the shop. We also have free resources, the Correctional Oasis, which is a monthly publication available on desertwaters.com. And we also offer support. We offer support for our trainers that we've trained. We also have support through the Ventline email. It's ventline@desertwaters.com, and it's a place for you to do just that. Vent about what's going on, whether personally through your work, but it's something outside your agency where you can just drop us a line and say what's going on, and someone will respond to you. So on here you see TCF, and that's towards corrections fulfillment, and you'll hear me say TCF the rest of the time. What TCF is it's to prepare for successful careers. We're going to look at educating, equipping, and evidence-informed prevention techniques. So what does that mean? We're looking at the new staff coming in, giving them the tools on their tool belt to equip them to not fall into corrections fatigue, or if they do fall into corrections fatigue, how to get out of it, how to get out of that funk, how to not let the stressors of the job really affect um, us in our personal life. And we're trying to support staff retention in that, because if people want to be there, then they're going to stay. If the demands of the job are too much, we're going to lose staff, and it's important that we keep our staff. About TCF, so it's a prequel to CF2F. So if you were with us last time, you heard about the from corrections fatigue to fulfillment, and TCF is a prequel to that. It's for new staff. Um, we're looking at staff members who have just hired to about 6 months. Um, it's correction specific. It's customized, like I said, for new staff, both custody and non-custody. And it's because CF2F is not suitable for new staff. Because CF2F goes over the corrections fatigue aspect of the job. These new staff coming in don't know what corrections fatigue is. They haven't lived it. And so why are we going to tell scary stories to new staff before they've lived it? Let's give them the tools so that they don't maybe have to live that. They don't have to go through the same route that we went through. It was authored by Katerina Spinaris. Um, it's a 4-hour direct delivery training. And so, we look at it's a 4-hour block to give the training. And then the T for T class is a 4-day instructor training with a 3-year certification. And if you're already CF2F certified, it's a 3-day certification class. We offer it in person, we do live online, and then there's mandatory coaching virtually after the fact. And so once you're done with the T for T training, you'll meet with our coaches, one of our master instructors, who go over the material again to make sure that the trainers have understanding, that they are able to teach the material, they feel comfortable with it, because at the end of the day, we want a successful rollout for your department when you do this. And with that, let me hand it over to Chris Stanley.
Thank you, Justin. So, as Justin said, and I think he said it really well, is new cops, we're trying to give them that stuff in their tool belt to be able to deal with the job. And that's just kind of what TCF does. It's that old saying, knowing's half the battle. If we don't understand what we're going into, and if I was to quiz everyone in the audience and ask you, what training did you receive to prepare you for the job, to prepare you for the hurdles and the challenges of the job, most of you guys would say that you didn't get anything, or it was very minimal. You know, that we just don't do a good job getting our new cops ready for the job, understanding what they're going to run into. And that's what this kind of talks about. So some of our curriculum in the TCF, some of the things we talk about are the challenges that we go through, the work challenges, the shift work, the dealing with the inmates, the um, leadership, these kind of challenges that they see, and some ways that they can kind of negate some of those things when they're going through it. So being able to recognize what the challenge is, and then having some stuff in order to some ways of being able to deal with those challenges. Like shift work. Sitting down with your families and explaining to them what that looks like. You know, if you have to work nights and you need to sleep during the day, why you're sleeping during the day, and just helping them better understand those things. So a lot of it comes down to communication, especially when we're talking about our families and our loved ones and our friends. But so we talk about some of those challenges. Um, we give them the definitions to corrections fatigue, so they kind of have a better understanding of exactly what corrections fatigue looks like. We don't go into, like Justin was saying, the ugliness of what corrections fatigue is, because they haven't experienced it yet. But we give them that definition so they have a better understanding. So when they start to see those things and see that stuff in them, that it may click to them that they may be going through that fatigue and they need to do something to address that. We discuss the phases of changes with them, where we go from the honeymoon stage um, to the involvement stage, all the way to the bubble bursting, and understanding what that bubble bursting stage looks like and how that affects them, and that's probably one of the key things we want them to understand is what that bubble bursting phase looks like, because then after bubble bursting, it goes into the wall building, the corrections fatigue, which is where all the damage really is done in our lives and stuff like that. When we start doing that wall building and that corrections fatigue, and getting that corrections fatigue, that's where you start seeing the alcoholism, the illicit affairs, the just the bad choices we make at that point. So we kind of talk about that stuff, and then we talk about getting back to that crossroads and the ability to get from bubble bursting to crossroads and minimizing that wall building and corrections fatigue as much as possible. So that's kind of what the phase of changes kind of looks like. We discussed some of the personality changes and some ways to negate that stuff. When we talk about personality changes, we're talking about how our worldview changes potentially. How when we come into it, we kind of see the world in rose-colored glasses. But the reality is when we get into this job, we see the ugly of the ugly. So we talk about those changes that happen to us because of what we see. And there again, we're trying to get these guys to recognize these things. So when they start to see these things, these negative personality changes, that they can start to do something to correct that. So that's some of the stuff we talk about with these new cops. We talk about the importance of the workforce culture and how it affects us. If we have multiple people dealing with corrections fatigue, then our workforce culture tends to go down, our morale goes down, and it's a really negative environment. But if we can start to understand how that negative personality can change the workforce, and realizing that being positive and having a group of people that recognize what those things, those ideas look like, or those hurdles might look like, then it can change that workforce culture and make it a more positive place to work, regardless of what's happening outside of your institution or your agency. Even though your agency or your higher ups may not be on board with this, you can make a difference and have a good workforce culture within your environment. And that's some of the stuff we talk about with them. That professional fulfillment is there again. We're talking about finding that the positive side of things, those things that why the job's fulfilling, and those things to look for to help make it feel like it's fulfilling. Because when you walk into an area where it's concrete and steel and razor wire all day long, sometimes it's tough to see the positive side of the job, you know. But we have to start looking at the small things, and we kind of talk about our sphere of influence, not only in CF2F, but we kind of bring it up in TCF as well, talking to them about that, what they can control and those things they can focus on to get that fulfillment, within their scope of influence. So it may be as simple as just doing your job appropriately, and getting the right recognition, but whatever it might take to find that fulfillment. And then the nuts and bolts of self-care, we get into that because that's really the crucial thing, because we're worthless to anybody, to our families, inmates, our coworkers, if we don't take care of ourselves. That's just the reality. We have to take care of ourselves, and whatever that might look like for them, staying healthy, you know, being active, gym, using mental health services, if need be. You know, that's kind of a taboo thing in most agencies, and it's gotten better over the years, but we didn't mental health was really frowned upon, especially, years ago. And that's starting to change, not only in the department, but in society as a whole. But mental health care can be a crucial part of your self-care, and we just have to kind of get them to realize that. Like, so we talk about some of those nuts and bolts of what that self-care might look like, and then the resources and practical applications of the work home. There again, coming up with those transition things to separate work from home as much as possible. It's almost impossible not to take work home or take home to work, but we need to minimize that as much as possible. So we talk to them about that, and we go over some of those techniques and some ways they can potentially do what that might look like and how they may work through that. So when we start talking about onboarding, so just kind of looking at it through the wellness lens when you're putting this together and you're looking at your new staff and what you can do, you want to give them those practical tools that can be implemented from day one at the very beginning, and that's what TCF really is about. Is about from the very first day being able to recognize and have some tools to be able to deal with the challenges of the job. Um, Having some of that reality-based cautioning there again of the challenges of the working in the corrections without the fear-based narrative. We're great at telling them about all the negative stuff, you know, and we got to get away from that. We need to talk about the challenges, but we don't need to scare them into um, what it looks like, because one of the big things we talk about and we've talked about for years is how the life expectancy of correction officers, especially, is like 59 years old. Well, if you look at a lot of agencies, their retirement plan exceeds that 59 years, because they know, that that's their life expectancy. But we don't want to focus on that. We don't want to make that the uh, the basis of what we're scaring these guys into. We want to talk to them about their actual challenges, what it's like to deal with the inmates, what it's like to deal with supervisors and other staff members, and our families. You know, um, have some universal scenarios for them, to some stuff that they'll actually encounter, you know, going through the job, and what those solutions they could use to practice to better go through those scenarios. Um, Leave with a personal wellness action plan before crisis hits. And there again, what we're talking about is to have something in place. So when the events happen, those traumatic things happen, when you're dealing with the violence or whatever it might look like in the institutions, that they have a way of dealing with that. Maybe it's an assault on them, what that looks like, and what they're going to do, what they do need to do to follow up. So giving them some ideas on how to have those um, plans in place. And honestly, I won't lie, for me, and I know Justin can pretty much vouch for this as well. This is something that in our department wasn't talked about, and really, I didn't plan for it. And I'm willing to bet that Justin would say the same thing, that he didn't really plan for any of that. We just kind of assumed, hey, when it happens, we'll deal with it and we'll just roll through it type thing. Well, there's a lot to be taken into account for that, because potentially there's kids involved, there's family involved and stuff like that. So just having a plan in place for those type of things. Um, and then disrupting those stereotypes and generational beliefs about corrections cultures. So for many of us, we have families that were involved in the department before we got into the department. I've worked with hundreds of people that were generational members of the department, where their dad, their moms, their grandparents worked in the department. And when you talk to them, 9 times out of 10, all they got coming into the department was the negative things of the job, how crappy the job was, how things are going, the negative side of it. And so when they come in, they naturally have that negative mindset. So they're already affecting the workforce culture with that negative mindset. So we want to kind of get them to start thinking, hey, we understand that you have family involved in the department. We understand that you have, people that you have associate with, but hold back your negative thoughts or your beliefs on how the job is till you get in there and kind of establish your own opinion and your own mindset, that type of thing. So there again, we talk about that with them as well. Moving on. So when you think of Desert Waters, this is our core of our Desert Waters team. And as you can see, you have Katarina up there, and then you have all of our instructors, Brent, myself, Justin, Stephanie, Joe, Jeff, Howie, and Liz. And that team right there probably has 150 years of correctional experience that we're drawing from. And if you notice that we have some that are mental health, we have some that have PhDs, all sorts of different degrees up there. And virtually every one of us have spent time in the corrections environment. Actually, all of us have, so we come from a wide range of experiences, a wide range of views. So it makes for a really good team. But these are the instructors we have on our team. These are the people that come out and do the training. These are our master instructors, and they're excited to be doing the job. Almost every one of us have some sort of story on how when we came on with Desert Waters, we actually signed on before we talked to our spouses. But when our spouses found out about it, they were 100% behind it. I know that was kind of my story and Brent's story and Justin. So a lot of us, like I said, when we started on here, we were excited to be part of it, and to the point to where we actually kind of missed a step in talking to our spouses prior to actually signing on with the company. But it's a great team. We enjoy what we do. We hope to meet with you guys soon on some of this and do some stuff with you guys when it comes to TCF or CF2F. But that's kind of the focus on it. So when you're sitting there and you're looking at all the instructors and whatnot, and you're sitting there thinking, well, is this really worth our time? Is this really worth some of the stuff that we want to do with our team? So we have a couple quotes just from some of the instructors that have actually taught the course and have been through the course. And so here's just some of the quotes that we've kept back on that. And here's one of them. It's, "This training has been phenomenal, much needed in our careers. I enjoyed every part of it, and I can't wait to teach it." And that's from a correctional sergeant. So they're supervisors seeing the value in being able to take care of the younger staff. Another one, "Great class. Need this for myself, and I know it will be well helpful to our staff." There again, another correctional sergeant. And then a third one we have here is, "Useful for myself, but will be very useful for the new hires to try to prevent fatigue, or if it does happen, some ways to bounce back from it." And there again, from another supervisor. So every one of them talk about how it was even good for, as experienced staff, it was an effective class for them, to go through, and it'd be good for their new staff. And there again, we have to start taking care of our staff at the very beginning, and part of an entire wellness program. TCF is a great addition to your wellness program. So that being said, I will turn it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate everybody for attending today and taking the time to hear more about another one of our great training products. If you are interested in TCF or any of our other training materials, consulting materials, or programs that we have available for your agency, you can certainly contact us at the contact information on the slide here, admin@desertwaters.com, or by phone. We really appreciate the time. Again, we know that everybody is busy, and it is difficult sometimes to make time for webinars such as these or to watch, training videos. So we are excited that you all joined us today. We also have an app. You can scan the QR code and download that onto one of your devices. You can also find out more about us and have access to the Oasis through that manner and platform. And again, if you have any questions at all about anything that we provide for agencies, please contact us. We are very responsive. We will get back to you very quickly and try to answer your questions. Our goal at the end of the day is to assist all agencies in furthering the well-being of their staff. We take that very seriously. That's our mission and that's our calling. And so as we wrap up again today, please stay safe, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next month, October 16th, for our next Staff Strong about correctional family wellness. Take care.